We're gonna learn animation in Moho and animate everything in Moho. It's easier than using a yo-yo, yeah. Now it's time to learn to use Moho.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be doing some expression work in Moho. I've been requested to do something with mouth shapes and different things like that, so we're going to try a couple things right now. So for starters, there's a few different mouths that you can make, types of mouths you can make. Like you can do a folder of switch layers for different mouth shapes that you have to draw, and then using the switch layers, you have a bone that can control when those different mouth shapes are drawn, and it is a really cool look that you pop from one shape to the other. I'll do another video on, but what we're wanting to do right now is to make a mouth rig that works kind of like the eye rig that I did, where you can control a bone for different mouth shapes, and they blend seamlessly together, and it gives you a wide range of mouth shapes that you can make, so that it's not just based on static mouths that you have to use those already predetermined shapes, but you can actually go and morph it and change it for any position of your head or anything else that you want to do. So just a really quick basic mouth. It's made almost exactly the same way as doing it with the eye tutorial I did. So basically I'm just going to come over here to our create points layer. We already have a layer made here. I'm going to expand this a little bit so it's a little easier to see. And basically what I'm going to do is with our points tool, just really quickly, I'm just going to make actually a really simple mouth shape. I'm going to go ahead and make the entire mouth, and I'm just using like 5 or 6 points here. And first thing I want to do is come in here with my curve tool and take these particular points and sharp them using that little button right here that goes from sharp. It just automatically makes a quick ability to sharpen that mouth. I'm going to adjust some points here, and now we've got a layer with color inside of it. And that's the other thing, just like on the eye, you want this to have a stroke and a fill, at least at this point. So this is going to be your mouth shape. It's what's going to cut the hole for your mouth. So that's going to be layer 1, and we're just going to rename that. Let me just pull this over so you guys can see the layer properties. I have 2 screens here, and we're just going to call this mouth, and I like to call this opening, like I do on my eyes as well. So now we're going to make another layer. Now don't worry about the color of this, that's not going to exist here in a minute. We're going to make another layer, and this one's going to be like the teeth or the tongue. So another vector layer, and this one is going to be called teeth up. That will be our upper teeth layer. So we're going to draw those in, and it doesn't matter if it's overlapping or anything. I'm just going to make a really simple shape using, well, you can use a rectangle for this. That's totally fine. Let's just get rid of that dot, and let's make a rectangle here. That is a circle, but watch, we can use that too. I'm just going to make sure that we deselect everything, and we just kind of pull these up and out of the way a little bit more. And that's totally fine for a basic teeth shape. We're going to also make another layer here for teeth lower, and then those are going to get drawn. Let's use the same thing, still a circle, and like so. Now you notice I don't have a stroke on that. That's okay. If you have used Moho before, you just come over here to your shape tool here, and you can see when you click on a shape on a layer, that's the one here on the lower, it's got no stroke on it. Now you can have a stroke or not, it doesn't matter. I'd rather not have a stroke. No, not funny. I would rather not have one, but if you want one, you just click over here after selecting the shape with this select shape tool, and you can add the stroke and change the width and everything else you want. So what I'm going to do is go back to our mouth opening here, select that shape, and make that one a little bit darker. It doesn't matter what this color is because it's going to change anyway. This is not going to be the inside of our mouth. We're going to have the teeth lower and the teeth up and the mouth opening. The mouth opening layer needs to be on the bottom. Whatever's going to be the hole in something needs to be the bottom layer. You'll see why. So we have the lower and upper teeth. Now behind the teeth, which will be lower down, we're going to need to make another layer but above the mouth opening, and that's going to be the inside of the mouth essentially. So we're just going to make another vector layer right here below the teeth but above the mouth opening here, and we're going to call this inner mouth for now. This is going to be the real simple version, and then we'll do a more advanced one in just a second. So this is going to be the inner mouth, and that is going to be a shape that can be whatever you want, but I'm just going to make it let's make it a circle for now. We'll make that one that reddish color. Let's go ahead and take the mouth opening and change its color, because in all honesty, that's going to be confusing. So let's go ahead and change the color of the inner mouth here to something like, I don't know, something dark, okay? You're not going to see it because it's on the back. If we turn this off, you're going to see that that's dark. Now, that's our mouth opening. Anyway, so there's our inner mouth, which will be masked by the mouth opening. So we have teeth lower, teeth upper, inner mouth, mouth opening. This is if nothing's going to exist outside the shape of the mouth. We can be more advanced here in a minute, but do all that. And then we're going to grab all of these layers. Make sure they're in this order. We're going to grab all those layers, and we're going to right click right here, and we're going to say group with selection. And now we're going to call this mouth. So it's going to create a group, a folder essentially, with all those layers in it. Now on this mouth layer, you want to double click on it and go over here to masking, and we want to click on hide all. That's going to mask everything inside that folder, and we're just going to come down and say apply and or okay. So now you can see it's masked. It doesn't have a stroke on it though, so that's why it looks kind of like that. The bottom teeth do, that's, you can see the difference, but everything now that's inside this mouth layer is going to be masked by this mouth opening. Now if you want to change the shape of the mouth, you would go to the mouth opening layer and grab your points, make sure nothing else is selected, and then you can move the lips around and you can see that it masks those teeth and everything inside of there, so you can change your mouth shapes and stuff. If you need the teeth to move, you just grab the lower teeth and move them up. If you grab the upper teeth and move those down. The layer, not the points necessarily, depends on how you want to animate. But if you drop these down, you can see now the upper teeth are behind the lower one. That's fine if they have an underbite, but most people, I guess, don't. So we're just going to grab that layer on top. That way the top teeth come over the bottom teeth, and that's pretty much it. You want to go down though into this mouth opening layer, double click it and bring it up, and in masking on here, you can see it's been added to the mask, which is what you want. And then here there's exclude strokes, so it won't mask the strokes if you check this option. So now we'll say apply, okay, and you can see now it keeps the strokes of the outside of the mouth. You can move your points around as needed. You can open your teeth up here by selecting the layer. Let's center that layer. You can just click your little center point here, origin point, and just move it to where it needs to go. And then you move the teeth up, and we could add those, give those a stroke by selecting that shape right here and adding stroke on that. It doesn't matter if you use one or not. It's up to you. That's a personal preference thing. And then the inner mouth, you can see, is just this big circle that we made, and it's masked off by that mouth opening. So when you open your mouth, you just move your teeth out of the way, and yes, you can use the points or the layer, whichever works better in the situation, and you just change that as needed. Of course, you can animate that over time, not using any kind of control bones, and you just, click where you want whatever. You make a little adjustment and it'll give you a keyframe down here. And then now if you close your mouth, you just bring it down to where it's going to need to be closed. Change your points around where they are close enough to being closed. Then of course you want to move your upper teeth down to match that, and then the lower teeth are going to be somewhat behind the other ones, kind of like that. And then of course you move to a farther down the line frame. We're going to grab the mouth opening and grab just 1 point, and let's open it as wide as we want it to be, in whatever shape you need it to be there. And then you have that. We're going to take our teeth now, and I'm going to show you a cool trick in just a minute to make this even less work. So we're going to do like that, and we're going to take the lower teeth now. We're going to pull those down. So now, when we click off everything, when you move, you have a mouth that can open and close. But this is the very manual way of doing this. We want to use smart bones or smart bone dials to make this really cool. So I'm going to get rid of these, just highlighting these points on the timeline. Go back and always make sure you're on frame 0. All right, we're going to make our smart bone dial first. We're going to make sure we're not clicking on anything, and then we're on this mouth layer. Now, the mouth layer right now is a standard layer, a group layer. We want to make this, if it's just the mouth by itself, usually a bone layer, but the better way to do it is to make another layer on top of it. So what I'm going to do here is make a new vector layer, and I'm going to call this, let's just call it head for now. It doesn't matter if you make a head or not. It's just going to essentially create a group for us, and I'm going to right click on that and say group with selection. It's just going to group it in its own layer. You can call it whatever you want to, head, whatever for now. And I'm only doing that just so we have a folder to put this in. You can even delete the layer that's inside there. It doesn't matter. But anyway, you want to put this mouth group inside that head layer. That way, if you move your head, the mouth moves with it. But what I'm really getting at here is within the head layer now, we're going to want to create some smart bone dials. And so with this head layer, we're going to make sure that, nothing's selected bone-wise or anything. And we're going to right click on that layer and click on convert to bone. Click on that, it makes it a bone layer. So now when you click on it and come over here, you can create new bones. Make sure you don't have anything selected, and you're going to click on add new bone, and we're just going to put it over here off to the side. And you're like, well, why would you want to do that? Well, this is just like the eye blinking tutorial. These are going to be the control bones. We're going to want to rename this one, and I'm going to call this one mouth open, and that is that. So we are on frame 0, we have this one, but it's not a smart bone yet. That's why you're not seeing the label or anything. We're going to go to bone, we're going to come down and select make smart bone dial. We can write in the name, just leave it as that. And this is the angle. It's going to start from a positive or negative direction and go to a positive direction. If you only want it to move 90 degrees, make that first number 0. If you want it to have 2 different actions that can go closed or something completely opposite of that, you'd want it to go both directions. I'll explain more. The eye kind of works that way when it's blinking or it's making it wider. So you can separate those as 2 different ones right here. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take this down to a 0. That way it goes from 0 to 90. There's not 2 different directions, and it's going to take place over 100 frames of a duration. So we're going to say OK. And you now see we're in this brand new timeline here at the bottom. That's why it's blue. And we're going to move forward. As we do, you can see that this dial starts to move. This is what is happening as you move it along the timeline. That is its own separate timeline inside of this smart bone dial action. So we're going to move this forward up to the frame 100, which is where it stops. And right there, we're going to change our shape to be what we want it to be when it's open. And I'm just going to move here to my mouth opening, and we're going to move on frame 0, make sure no points are selected, and then we're going to move and close our mouth how we would want that to be if it was closed. And it's just a few points, that's why I only used a few in this example. That's good enough. We're going to move to the teeth upper because they have to move too, and we're going to select the layer for the teeth. Move those down a bit, like maybe it's like so. The teeth lower should be moved up a bit. They'll move behind the other ones, remember? And the mouth inner doesn't move because nothing else needs to. So that's the beginning. We're going to move now all the way to frame 100 on the bone layer. You have to click on the bone layer again. That way you'll see your keyframe here. And with the mouth open, now we're going to go down to that mouth opening layer again. Make sure no points are selected, and we're going to open up the mouth as wide as we would want that to be. You can make this be an ah shape, an O shape, whatever, and you can make multiple actions so that you can switch between them with different bones. So we're just going to go ah. Obviously the teeth are not in the right place, so we're going to grab the tooth layer and we're going to move it up, and we're going to grab the lower teeth layer and move it down. And now you'll see when I do this, and you can see the mouth opening and closing as I animate along that timeline, we now have that mouth open and close action. Now granted, this should be called mouth close. It should probably be in reverse because it's saying mouth open. Anyway, you get the idea. As that moves down, it opens the mouth. It probably should have been as you move up, but that's a matter of taste again. So that's the basic opening and closing of a basic mouth. Once you're done with that though, you're going to want to go to your actions tab here and double click this main line, because that's going to take you out of this special timeline for that bone and back to the main timeline. So now you're on frame 0, and to test it, you're going to want to go to your bone layer, whatever the bone layer is. We named ours head. You're going to grab the manipulate bones tool, not this one, but this one here with the little up and down icon on the bone. And that way you can move this and check your control. And you can even make it puppeteered to open and close when you open and close your mouth. Okay, so that's basically it for a basic mouth open and close. With this going along, let's start in frame 0 again, but instead of working on the bones just now, let's make our mouth a little more advanced. I think on the inner mouth, and let's go ahead and let's make a dark kind of throat or whatever to this guy. So I'm going to go to the bone layer real quick and open the mouth just so I can see everything. We're going to open this up. We're going to go to the mouth opening layer. I'm going to create a new vector layer. And we're going to call this throat. And what that'll do is give us a more of a deeper throat area. So I'm just going to make another dark circle. Now we could do this in any order. You can draw this stuff before you ever close the mouth to see this easier, but this is just one way of doing it. And I'm just going to make a darker area here. Once you have a circle drawn, I'm going to go over here and make sure it's selected. We're going to just use fill, no stroke, and we're going to go create shape. Once that's made, of course, we're going to click on the shape and make sure it's selected. You can see that over here. We're going to make our fill much darker, and now we'll have that shape inside. It looks gray. We're going to make sure nothing is selected. Our layer is selected, so you see it's outlined, but you won't see it at all until we open the mouth. So now we can go over to our bone layer. We can go back here to the control there and the manipulate bones tool. And when we open this, you can see now that should be there, but it's not. And that is because it probably has no masking on it, because it's inside of a masking group. Nope, it's because it's behind the inner mouth layer. Remember, the order of layers matters. We're just going to grab it and move it on top of that one, and look, it appears. Now when we close and open our mouth, which we have to go back to the bone layer to do, now it will cover that up just like it's real. If you wanted that to change shape as the mouth moves, you do the same thing. You go back to your mouth open action, which is right over here. You go back to frame 0, and we click on this mouth open action. We're taken back into that little timeline. I'm going to make sure that that's kind of like so. And if you want it to change shape when it closes, we just go back to the closed shape. Make sure we're clicking on that throat layer. You can see it here, a little hint of it anyway. Make sure nothing's selected, and that you just change the shape of the throat shape, what it's going to be. So that way when this opens now, you can see that it over here at frame 100, we're now going to make that get bigger. So it'll be something like this, this, and this. And now when you move this, you can see that will enlarge as he opens his mouth. Small. And this one has to be outside of the mouth opening. So it needs to be on the top layer. So we're going to go above teeth up. Another layer on the above the teeth up, we're going to go with vector. And we're going to call this upper lip. Now this is where it starts to get a little more confusing, because as you add new pieces, you're going to have to manage these within your actions. But it's not as hard as it sounds. So on the upper lip, we're going to draw an upper lip. So let's go ahead and pick our shape. You can also use the pencil tool or the pen tool and make these shapes, but let's just make a few points here. This is for our upper lip. We're gonna get all stylized here. Something like this and this. And of course you can see that those get wiggy, so we're gonna fix those corners in just a second. Like I said, the more little breaks in the line, the more complex it gets, but also the more control you'll have. So you have to balance that out. Now there's our shape. We need to make sure that these little corners here are sharp. So click on that one, click the sharp button, click on this one and sharp that one as well. Now we need to make the shape of the lip. So we go back to our make shape button. We click in here to where we see that highlighted. We're gonna go with, let's go with no stroke on this one, just a fill. And we're gonna say create shape. Now on that, we're going to click on the select shape button. We're gonna click it as well. And now we need to make sure we get an actual shape out of that. It looks like we are, because we made this layer inside of the mouth, it's being masked. We do not want to do that. So this needs to go above the mouth layer outside of that group. Now we have our shape. Now we can click on the fill color. It was matching the background here, so it was hard to tell where my color sample was. And then make the color that you want your lip to be and say, okay, there you go. So now we can make, we'll click off of it and you can see that there's our lip. I want to kind of adjust the points here a little bit, just scroll wheeled in slightly. Let's just select a point here and sort of get that kind of more lined up better. We could use a mask or other things if you want here, but I'm just going to make this line up really well. You might have to tweak it a little bit. Remember, that's only for the action. You only have to do that one time within the action, and then every time you open the mouth and stuff, it'll be perfectly fine. So let's make our lower lip. So let's go right on top of the mouth layer again, but not in it. We're going to make another vector. We're going to call this lower lip. And you can single click it and wait, or you can double click and it opens up your dialog or change the name. And most of the time I'll do it like this, lip and then lower, or lip underscore lower for the naming convention. That way you get the name of the thing first and then designate whether it's upper or lower or left or right or whatever, outer, inner. So on the lower lip, now we're just gonna make points again, make sure nothing's selected and you're on frame 0. And we're gonna make a lower lip. And this one's just gonna be a bit more rounded, I think, kind of like this. And I'm trying to keep the points somewhat, even from each other. So once that is like that, we're going to go ahead and we're gonna sharpen our corners. So I'm just gonna make sure nothing's selected, grab our sharp tool, grab that point and sharpen it, grab this tool and sharpen it, and that's pretty much done. We also want to turn off the stroke for this. We don't have to, you can leave it if that's what you like to see. This particular one, I'm just doing it as an option. So once that is done, you need to click on the shape select tool, select that shape, and we're going to turn the stroke off. So now when you click away, you have that. We do need to adjust the points and where they're at for the moment. These are just going to be like the starting basic points here. Make sure everything's as you would like to see it. I'm trying not to cover up that line. And yeah, that looks good. We can also put that below the mouth layer, I believe. I'm going to try that. That way we get a nice cutoff. Let's make sure that that works the way I expect it to. So below the mouth layer, but not in it, I've got my upper lip. And with that, the point of that being, if I pull this down, it's blocked and it doesn't get cut off. So you don't have to have these precise against that edge to keep some white flashing from happening. So I'm just going to pull those down. Just be careful if you overlap on that other one. It works just fine. You're just going to get a little confused. So the lower lip, so you don't accidentally get this kind of flashing, you're just going to pull it up a little bit. And now you won't have that problem while you're animating. You're just going to cover that over and be masked by the opening of the mouth still. So once we have that, we do have to go into our mouth open action and make sure the lips move when you move this bone control here. So once again, we're going to go back to our bone layer, into the mouth open action, and we're going to go up here, and you're going to see the lips aren't going to move. So we need those to move with the mouth being opened. And a way to make sure you can see everything, we're just going to click on the upper lip, and you can see it right here. Now you can move these points 100% individually. You can also grab this magnet tool, kind of stretch them up, which, you know, sometimes works pretty good. Sometimes it makes a messier drawing, so be careful with that. Sometimes you want that, especially if you're using like bitmap artwork that you change over into a vector, or if you scribble like with the pen tool. The magnet tool is going to move a lot of lines all together, very much easier than you trying to do all this one point at a time. So just think about that. And now I'm just going to kind of adjust a couple of these individual points. And what's nice is you can go back and forth and test this all day long to see, you know, how your shapes look and how it's going. See how it's being masked? You're not seeing any of the lip right here because it's being masked behind the mouth. And now the lower lip, let's go ahead and grab its points around and just pull it out to where we can see it, the entirety of it. There we go. Grab it like so. Now we have the lower lip on there too, and you can make this whatever shape you need, just like that. And now you can see that this will all move together when you make it talk. And that's just one mouth position. You're going to want to have, oh, I don't know, there could be 30 different ones, whatever you want to pick. But you need an open and close. I would do an O sound. I would do a smile for E, and you can close it and just use that as your smile. You can do a smaller pucker for like an ooh, and that's just a matter of making, you know, smaller shapes and stuff. But you want to be able to manipulate it with this single mouth as much as you can, so they all kind of blend together. And I thought about maybe putting in a uvula in the throat that can wiggle when he talks. So to do that, we'll just make a new layer. Make sure it's inside the mouth so it gets masked, and it has to be behind the teeth but in front of the throat. So now we're going to go right here, vector, and we're just going to call this, I guess it's an epiglottis. I think that's how you spell it. Anyway, with that done, we're just going to make and let's use liquid shapes. What the heck? It's quick and easy. We're going to have, on this layer, we're going to make a little sphere like so. And then let's use a cylinder or a square, rectangle. You can tell I do a lot of 3D work. And we'll pull that like so. And of course, now we can grab these points, move them around as they need to be done. In fact, you can insert new points into them, which has always been a very cool and handy thing to be able to do. Hopefully you guys can see that okay, being this small. Basically, this is going to be our little uvula in the back of the throat. So we want to make these as actual shapes first off. So with that selected, I'm going to grab that shape with our create shape tool. We're going to say fill, and might as well try to fill both of them. I think you can at the same time as long as they're on the same layer. Is that even true? Let's find out. We're going to click this one. We're going to shift click this one. And yes, it is, but it looks like they're trying to make some little strange thing between them. That might just be a visual representation of what's going on. We're going to say create shape, which it does. That overlap, though, will go away here in a second. Once we click over here and we decide what color it is we want for that, they're going to just completely vanish, and I don't know why. So I'm going to go here and try to find that again. Okay, let's do these one at a time. I'm going to select this particular one with fill selected only. I'm going to go create shape. We have our shape here. We're going to select there. We're going to select it, and then we're going to fill it with a somewhat the same as the inside of the mouth, a little bit. And then it should be filled, but it doesn't look like it's doing it. Let's go ahead and select that. We're going to go back to our shape. We're going to make sure that fill is selected there. It's on epiglottis, but it is being masked. That's why. We got to remember this is outside of the opening of the mouth. So that makes perfect sense. We're going to need to, for the moment, take this outside of the mouth to where it shows up. And now it'll be fine until we change the layer position. So let's go ahead and grab all those points or layers and just move them right into here. Another cool thing we could do here also is to make those that dynamic where it wiggles around on its own when it talks. Kind of creepy and gross, but a very cool thing to be able to do if we wanted. Once that is like that, I'm going to use what's called liquid shapes. So I'm going to grab the shape tool, grab those shapes, and this will actually allow them to be blended together. It's a very cool thing. That is our epiglottis that is set there like so, and that's how they will interact with each other. So if we want anything moving, bobbing around, or whatever, you'll see what I mean here. If I grab one shape and move it, you can see it's hard to see here, but these will actually blend together instead of making two hard separate shapes. You can actually adjust how much of kind of like the bleed between them is even. So in selecting them, you can check blend, and these will actually sort of warp into each other. And we're going to have to check that once the mouth is open. So let's go back into our setup here. We're going to go back to the head layer where our morph tool is. And I'm going to go on the timeline and just make a little animation of our mouth openings. All right, so we're going to go back to our bone layer. And on frame 1, we're going to manipulate this control to where it's not open. About 48, we're going to open the mouth widely. And you'll see our little epiglottis there. Now, I'm going to check here on that epiglottis layer. As far as selecting on its shape, right here, we're able to select the blend. So if I do this blend, it's blending as much as it can there, and I believe it is blending with that one, so that's perfectly fine. Now we're going to move, which the cool thing about liquid shapes, you can do tons of stuff, and you can make one shape and another blend with another as long as they're on the same layer. You can make fire and all kinds of stuff that way, and I'll show you that in a different tutorial. But now we're going to grab that epiglottis here. We're going to go ahead and throw it inside behind the teeth but above the throat, and I'm going to take that particular layer and kind of just adjust it to where it meets with the roof of the mouth a little bit. So now when the mouth is opened here, you can see it closes that, and we can even change its size and shape as well, just like before. So on that epiglottis layer, it's going to be a certain scale at this point, so we just got to tap it a little to make it do so. And then as the mouth closes back to frame 1, we're going to make its scale shrink, and we can even move it up a little bit more. That way when this opens now, you see it even grows as well. So that's just basically using smart bones to make the mouth open and close. Like I said, you can create others to make the mouth smile and so forth, and let's just do that. I'm going to go back to our head layer. We're going to go ahead back to frame 0. I'm going to leave those keyframes for now, and let's make another bone. And this is a really important thing. When you're going to make a new bone, you got to make sure this bone here, or in any bone, is not selected. I try to click off of all layers, all points, and all bones. So now we're going to make a new bone on frame 0. Very important. This one's going to be smile. Okay, so we're going to just right here rename it smile, and this could be smile or frown. Now remember I was telling you about making it just 90 degrees of a turn. That way you get the open and back to the closed. This one can smile and frown, so we're going to make it go from -90 all the way to +90, so we get both actions. So on that bone, with it selected now, we're going to go to bone, make smart bone dial, and here you have it. Smile it's going to go from, not from 0, but from negative 90 to positive 90. And it's going to do that over a course of 100 frames within that action. And you can see this, separate actions for positive and negative. So it's basically going to be 2 actions that we can set up, one for the frown and one for the smile. This is the most difficult you'll ever get in any of this. This new timeline that opens up is the new action, but it's just for it moving from 0 to negative 90. So that's just the frown, let's say. So when it comes here, we're going to make the thing smile. We're going to go over here to our actions tab just to make sure you see we have the mouth open action, the smile 1, and smile 2. This is smile 1. So with it on a frame 100, we're just going to come in here to the layer, because right now we're on the bone layer. We're going to come in here to the mouth opening, and we're just going to move some points around. So let's just grab our tool there and start manipulating the corners down. And, you know, they can be as extreme or whatever as you want. I'm just going to play with it a little bit there. And then let's go to the lips, so the upper lip. Now can come down and come down, etc. It's just a matter of moving a few points, you see. And then the lower lip can also now be brought down to where it needs to be. And the only reason why you're seeing that lip pass there is because the opening of the mouth isn't cutting it off. We're going past that, and you can see it again. So we have to just kind of remember that as you do this. Matter of fact, we can push the bottom lip up just a little bit while he frowns, or she, or yes, he or she, and see what happens. Let's just get this a little better situated there. And now you can see we have the frown. In fact, we can even make that top lip a little better when this happens. Maybe it flattens out just a little more, you know? And it's just about checking it and changing it to see, you know, what that needs to be. And I think I got a mess up here on the corner of the lip just a little bit. It's a little weird. Okay, that works for me. So now we're going to do the smile. So instead of doing anything else, you don't have to go back to the main line. We just go over here to smile 2, double click it, and now we're in smile 2. We're going to go up to frame 100 right there. You can see it right here in your little indicator. And on frame 100, now we're going to change everything to be in a smile shape. So the mouth opening, I like to do first. We're just going to grab that, make it smile. You can even make it bigger. It's okay. Whatever you want to position this as is what it will stay as or become. There we go. And I'm trying to leave that center in the middle to where the mouth isn't floating around when it does it. So now the upper lip, we're going to make that maybe pop up just a little bit like that. Definitely like so. Over to the corners. And then get this, of course, more correctly lined up. If you have any problem with curves, you can always put more points in even after you've drawn the thing, because it's still on frame, essentially on frame 0 within the action timeline, not the actual timeline. So now the lower lip we can adjust as well. Get this one like so. Just get these into a good place. Like I said, if your curve is off in any way, just move the points around until it isn't. That one can have a little more fullness, I guess, but not, you know, too much, because it is being made taut. So now you can see the smile and the frown. And you just go back to your main line now, and we have both these dials here. So whatever you want to do, you just go back to your bone layer. You grab your manipulate bones tool. Now you can open the mouth, close it, and smile, frown, and smile. Now, what's cool, and it may not always work, but you can adjust this with, there's a way to adjust it, I'll show you. You can go to mouth open, and now if you smile with the mouth open, it will mostly work. You might have to adjust some of your points on your lip, and now if it frowns, you see how these kind of come off. You can adjust that with a smartphone for when those things are happening together, or you can just go into your timeline and adjust them when needed, and that's what I usually like to do. So basically, hello, a little bit of a smile, very pleasant and happy to meet you, and now you make me sick. See, very simple if you don't do too extreme. And that's how you would just do standard mouth and mouth shapes using smart bones inside of Moho. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know what else you guys want to see, and talk to you soon.
We're gonna learn animation in Moho and animate everything.